Hey Heidi, this is Jeff. How are you?
Hey Jeff, doing fine.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
What what are we talking about today?
Well, I heard you want to know something about evaluations.
I know. What is a commercial evaluation? I think we could start there. What is a
Well,
commercial evaluation and who can do them? When?
for
So many
for a
questions.
bank, for a bank, an evaluation has a definition. It has a laundry list of things that need to be in it. So there's like 7 points. I mean, you can, and it includes showing your work and having comps and inspecting the property and signing it and so forth. Um, but the real thing is that evaluations are kind of a manufactured term that came up in the bank regulatory world when they were looking for a solution for something that would be a good fit for a low risk transaction. Either something that they've already have an appraisal in file because it's an existing loan, or something that's a low loan amount and that's not, if it did go bad, it wouldn't really have much, present much risk to the organization. So the bottom line, I mean, evaluation equals low risk. And if there's not low risk, evaluation shouldn't be on the table. So I mean that's the bottom line. That's and the regulators really talk about that, saying that there are times that the regulations would technically allow you to use an evaluation in lieu of an appraisal, but they really hope that you're going to look at the risk involved and determine that there might be situations, well, yes, you can do it, but it's still risky. Well, you can do an evaluation on a renewing loan, but what if it's a hotel? And what if nobody in your organization has any ability to value a hotel? Um, those are the kinds of things that banks are supposed to be looking at: the complexity of the property, what's going on in the market, um, especially for that property type, and what's going on with your organization. Uh, and whether it's inside or outside your market footprint, where you've got experience in your market footprint, you really know the market well, you know how real estate trends are going because that's your responsibility when it's your market, as opposed to if it's outside your market and you have less of that, those resources available. So all of those things should be considered if you're a financial institution and you're looking at a renewing credit to determine whether you need to do an evaluation.
And who do you think should do evaluations? You have third-party vendors like Boxwood Means, you have brokers, you have um, credit folks in banks doing it as well. You have appraisers doing evaluations.
Sure.
Who would be best to do an evaluation?
Well, I mean, I always think that if everything were free, you'd rather have an appraiser, because that's the true
True.
competency right there. But if you're just looking at cost and benefit analysis and it's low risk, then assuming that their the report that gets generated meets all of those requirements of the regulations, those points. There's an inspection, there's comparables, the analysis is shown, it's a signed document, those kinds of things. Then it can be anybody. It doesn't have to be one person, because banks are going to be looking at, saving, especially for their competitive keeping clients, or trying to get new loans, even on the lower side of the risk side of it, low loan amount. The more low loan amount deals that they can do, then maybe it's gonna, if they do a bunch of them, they don't want to have to do so many small big ones. So there's a market for all of that, but the key is not going to be who the person is. The key is going to be what's their competency to do that particular assignment, because the regulations are really as strict on that as they are on appraisers. So whomever it is, whether it's a broker or some kind of firm that gets that comes in and does all the evals for a particular bank, then they have to be competent for that particular assignment. And here's the kicker. The bank is sure that that person is competent. You can't, if you say, oh, we're going to outsource all of our evaluations to an AMC or to whomever, this, one group, that doesn't mean that the bank isn't responsible for ensuring that whomever does them in those groups is competent for each individual evaluation. And of course, the bank is also responsible, or somebody's responsible on behalf of the bank, to review an evaluation just the same as if it were an appraisal.
Interesting. So do you find that reviews, evaluations, I know from a fee appraiser perspective, it's a challenge. Typically the fees vary in different markets. What I've seen is, generally speaking, $900 to $1,200 for an commercial evaluation. Some appraisers are still trying to figure out the format, and they call it a evaluation or a restricted appraisal in the form of, and use different languages, but it's still an appraisal. And I think from a regulatory standpoint, if an appraiser is creating an evaluation, it's an appraisal, notwithstanding nomenclature.
Right. An evaluation is a manufactured bank regulatory bank, or industry term. But whatever term your clients can call your appraisal report turnips, but they're still an appraisal report.
Sure.
So yes, we're giving them what they want that meets this checklist at the very minimum as an evaluation that they label. But we have to operate in the world of what we do, which is under USPAP. And I know a lot of people are trying to get rid of that because they think that that's going to be helpful. But you still have all of the other ethics and all of those other USPAP things that we can't throw away, even if we're not doing an appraisal assignment. So yeah, it's going to be an appraisal. The key, I think, for an appraiser, and I'm not somebody who practices appraisal writing, so I can't say from my own experience, but I know several appraisers that do fairly well doing evaluations. And what they have to do is two things. They have to have a format, a format that is robust enough to fit a lot of things in, to encompass a lot of different property types and so forth. And but it doesn't end up being like their typical narrative that everyone wants to blow up and it takes a long time to do, so they can just get it out. And that's number two, they have to be really rigorous in not taking on an assignment that really shouldn't be an evaluation. So that it's really, it's an income producing property and it's got multi-tenants in it, office building, shouldn't be an evaluation. Not for $900. Yeah, it starts to get complex. And because you've got all the lease by lease analysis you've got to do, and it might be a renewing credit very well, but you still have to go through all the leases. So it's not going to be a $900 job like if it was an owner occupied 3,000 square foot office building. So you have to be really, appraisers I know want to be conciliatory and good marketing people with their clients to keep them happy, but you got to be a little hard-nosed, I think, in order to be successful with the evaluations, or you're just going to end up mired in assignments that you're getting $900 for and you should be getting $2,500 for.
Sure. I think it does get back to relationships, because for fee appraisers, you really have to lean on a lot of technology like workflow, database, report writing, voice dictation, multiple screens, streamlining your inspections where you're seeing multiple properties in a given day. You really have to be in the zone to do the $900, $1,000 evaluation.
Exactly.
But also, I think it's a relationship. If your client would love to have your appraiser do the evaluation, I do think it's a communication of, okay, we're going to do evaluation. Let's talk about it. Is it complex? Should I do just sales only? Should I do sales and income? what do you think about the approaches? Should it be somewhat of a conversation to be on the same page as far as scope?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's more so for the evaluations, not necessarily because you have to do it for USPAP, but I think you have to do it because you're gonna have to manage your client's expectations about what he or she's going to get. They don't understand appraising. They barely understand. Even the people who are making these decisions a lot of times are not the reviewers necessarily. So those folks are going to barely understand the appraisal aspects as well. So yeah, you really have to be hard-nosed and say, I'd like to help you, but this isn't one where I can do that unless it's not your typical, because I think a lot of banks like to have a range of fees that they are going to say, this is what evaluations are going to cost. And there are going to be times that if you can do it as an evaluation, but all of the work is in the appraisal, it's not in the report. And that's what you're getting paid for. So when the work is going to be way more than your little low risk deals, you need to be able to communicate that to the point that they understand that you don't do the assignment, those kinds of assignments, and you still maintain the relationship, or you get paid more.
And from the fee appraiser's perspective, what do you think is the most common misconception of an eval is?
The folks I've talked to, again, I'm just a reviewer. But the folks I've talked to, and especially I've talked to folks in the regulatory, I mean, in the like the appraisal board side, because I was on an appraisal board, and I know some of those folks who are still on and in other states, and there's just, it's a kind of near panic. That USPAP has got us handcuffed, and we cannot do it. Literally, I've had conversations with appraisers who are eminently, I respect very much, and they kept saying, I can't be done under USPAP. And I'm saying, I have to beg to differ, it can. So I think it's a general misconception, despite the fact that the Appraisal Foundation and we are Appraisal Institute members, and the Appraisal Institute for a decade or more has been provided really good guidance. But I think it's a mindset. We're used to having long reports, and we're used to getting certain fees for them. And I gotta say, if that's not your thing, to make this kind of radical change and to be really fast paced and to get them out, then it's not the work for you. And that's okay. You can do something else. You do litigation. You can do, right away or whatever. Evaluations are going to be for somebody that can move into that mindset and can kind of be production oriented, as opposed to, the normal plotting we do, to be able to think through everything and get it all out there so that everybody understands the full scope of the assignment that you're doing.
Sure. That's a great overview of evaluations. And Heidi, I definitely appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks. I enjoyed it too.
Have a great day.
You too.
All right, bye. What's that? Yes,
Did we get it?